I started my full-fledged preparation after I joined the Ultimate Assessment Program at Civilsdaily.
There is a 12-month strategy which I have done on Civilsdaily platform only.
I reached out to the Civilsdaily team.
Civilsdaily. Current affairs में Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. With Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. Civilsdaily. To Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
With Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
A mentorship program of Civilsdaily, and that did help me a lot.
So this question essentially highlights the dangers of growth without equity. Here you can include case studies like the rising inequalities post-economic liberalization in India. So this can be done by encouraging small businesses through targeted programs like Stand Up India, which focuses on women and SC and ST entrepreneurs. Enriching your arguments and your points even further, you could refer to the global best practices such as Sweden's universal welfare model, which combines progressive taxation with robust social services to ensure inclusion. On one hand, technology has democratized access to resources, information, and opportunities, giving voices to the marginalized. On the other hand, it has amplified the influence of the already powerful. Hello everyone, today we will be continuing our discussion on the essay microthemes. So the topic today is about the intersection of economy and environment in the essay paper. These topics aren't just about numbers or policies. Instead, they reflect the very choices we make as a society between growth and sustainability. So let us dive into the key essay themes under this topic, and we will be analyzing the PYQs as well. So under the section of growth versus development, if we look at the topic, poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere. So this quote essentially emphasizes the interconnectedness of global and local economies. Poverty acts as a systematic barrier to growth, and it also creates inequality, and it suppresses the demand and affects the social stability. So while approaching these kind of questions, you should begin with an example, such as how global economic crises impact both poor and rich nations. And you can also discuss the necessity of inclusive growth to sustain global prosperity. Now, if we look at the next question, that is, economic growth without distributive justice is bound to breed violence. So this question essentially highlights the dangers of growth without equity. Here you can include case studies like the rising inequalities post-economic liberalization in India, and this particular example can be used to illustrate the consequences of violence. Here, to add value to your arguments, you can add data on wealth disparities and examples of movements like Occupy Wall Street or India's farmers' protest to argue for balanced growth. Now, if we move to the next question, that is digital economy, a leveler or a source of economic inequality. So here, the digital revolution that has bridged gaps in some ways, yet widened other due to unequal access. So here you can discuss examples like the BharatNet project or the digital divide in education during the pandemic. You can also use examples like Bhutan's gross national happiness or India's focus on aspirational districts for development models that go beyond GDP. Right. Now, if we move to the next section of the themes, that is environment versus development, right? So if we look at the first question here, that is, forests are the best case studies for economic excellence. Now, this question again highlights that forest provides ecosystem services worth billions, and it supports biodiversity and also sustains local economies. Yet, deforestation for development remains a critical issue here. So here you can discuss examples like the Chipko movement or the role of forests in mitigating climate changes? Now, if you look at the next question here, protection of ecology and environment is essential for sustained economic development. So this question highlights the synergy between sustainability and economic growth. So you can use examples like renewable energy initiatives in India or afforestation drives like Campa funds. Now, if you look at this question, alternative technologies for climate change, resilient India. So here you are supposed to discuss technologies like solar energy, water conservation techniques, and eco-friendly construction as tools to combat climate change. You can include India's progress under the National Action Plan on climate change here. Or you can also include some innovative startups that are focusing on green technologies in the country these days. Right. Now, if we move to the next section of multinational corporations here, again, UPSC has asked some questions in the past on this topic. So, if we look at the question, globalization would finish small-scale industries in India. Now, here you're supposed to analyze the dual impact of globalization, like how globalization opens markets, but it can also threaten local industries. So here you're supposed to discuss policies like Make in India that aim to protect domestic sectors as well. Now, if we look at the next question, multinational corporations are saviors or saboteurs. So here again, you can use case studies to explain your case, such as like the case study on Vedanta in Odisha or Coca-Cola in Kerala to explore the positive and negative impacts of MNCs on local economies and the environment. You can also refer to India's FDI trends and examples of successful collaborations with the MNCs. The next question here is, farming has lost the ability to be a source of subsistence for majority of farmers in India. Now, this question asks you to address the agrarian crisis, declining income and migration to the urban areas. You can use case studies like the minimum support price debates and the PM Kisan Yojana over here. You can also discuss and quote reports like NABARD's All India Rural Financial Inclusion Survey or the recommendation of Swaminathan Commission. If you look at another question from this topic is tourism. Can this be the next big thing for India? So here, highlight the India's potential in ecotourism, cultural tourism, and medical tourism. Discuss challenges like the inadequate infrastructural and seasonality. You can also add stats on tourism's contribution to India's GDP and schemes like Dekho Apna Desh. So looking at some of these questions that have been asked by UPSC in the past, we can understand the interplay between economic growth and equity remains a dominant theme in UPSC. Also, environmental sustainability is no longer seen as a constraint, but as an enabler for long-term development. Here, the role of globalization, MNCs, and sectoral dynamics of various sectors of economy reflects India's evolving economic landscape, which should reflect in your answers as well. So as we have seen, these essay topics aren't just theoretical, they ask us to critically evaluate real-world dilemmas, whether it is balancing growth with equity or development or with sustainability. Your essay should offer solutions backed by data, case studies, and innovative ideas. So you are supposed to keep exploring these connections, and in this process, you are supposed to think deeply about the kind of future you envision for India. To deepen our understanding, we'll further explore some of the quotes related to each of these themes So these quotes serve as a probable question, and it will guide you on how to approach such quotes and such topics effectively to develop your content-rich essays. Right. So if we look at the topic, an economy that excludes people cannot sustain itself. So this idea emphasizes that sustainable economic progress is rooted in inclusion. An economy thrives when all sections of society have access to opportunities, resources, and the ability to contribute and benefit from growth. Whereas exclusion leads to inequality, underutilization of potential, and ultimately the stagnation or unrest. So this topic challenges the notion of growth that benefits only a few, urging us to rethink development as an inclusive process where the prosperity of one strengthens the collective well-being. So this idea is particularly relevant in a country like ours, where diversity in socio-economic backgrounds, geography, and demographics creates both challenges and opportunities. By addressing systematic barriers and ensuring equitable access, economies would not only achieve stability but also unlock the potential of marginalized groups, contributing to long-term resilience and growth for the country. So if we have to break down this quote into some relevant questions, and we will be addressing these questions to understand our approach towards this particular topic. So if we look at the first question here is, what does it mean for an economy to exclude its people? So it could mean that there is a lack of access to opportunities, resources, and employment for certain sections in the group. Or else economic policies are designed in such a way that they favor a few while marginalizing the rest. So here you can quote examples of exclusions such as education gaps, wherein limited access to quality education and for rural and marginalized populations exclude them from the economy. Also, you can highlight employment barriers here as well. So discrimination against certain groups such as women or the LGBTQ individuals or minority in communities. Again, if we look at the resource allocation problems as well, so unequal distribution of resources, infrastructure, and opportunities can be highlighted by urban bias in development, neglect of rural areas. So such cases can be highlighted to further strengthen these ideas. You can also mention historical examples such as apartheid in South Africa or caste-based exclusion in India, where systematic marginalization hindered economic development. Right, now let us move to the next facet of this topic, that is, why is inclusivity essential for sustainable economy? So it is essential because it ensures broad-based participation and contribution to economic growth. And it also creates a stable and resilient economy with a strong consumer base. Here again, you can quote examples of microfinance initiatives like the Grameen Bank have demonstrated how financial inclusions can uplift marginalized communities and contribute to the overall economic growth. And case studies of COVID-19 can also be included here, where nations with strong social safety nets, like such as Denmark, were better in maintaining economic stability. Here you can also mention about the Arab Spring uprisings were partially fueled by economic inequality and exclusion. And in the global context, you can refer to UN Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 8, which is decent work and economic growth, and Goal 10, that is reduced inequalities, which emphasize inclusivity as a cornerstone for sustainable development. Moving on to the next question, that is, what are the consequences of an exclusionary economy? So what happens when we exclude certain sections or certain groups in the economy? So it could lead to increased poverty, inequality, and social unrest in your society. It also limits the economic growth and potential as talent and resources remain underutilized in your society. So here, example of the Gini coefficient of inequality is alarmingly high in many developing nations, signifying uneven wealth distribution. You can also mention gender inequality in labor force participation costs the global economy approximately $12 trillion annually, as per McKinsey Global Institute data. With respect to the economic consequences, you can give an example of India's unorganized labor sector that contributes significantly to the economy but remains underpaid, which limits the consumer spending. Even Dalit and tribal communities in India often face resource deprivation despite their significant demographic contribution. Here you can use data points to further enrich your arguments, such as International Labour Organization reports, which show that economies with high informal employment and exclusion struggle with long-term growths. As well as Oxfam Inequality Report that quotes that India's top 1% holds more than 40% of the country's wealth. So such stats are alarming and they can easily display your understanding of the topic. Now the next question here is, how can economy become more inclusive? So it could be done by first policy level interventions. So policy level interventions ensure that there is equal access to education for all. And this can be done by strengthening school infrastructure in rural areas through programs like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Then there should be healthcare accessibility. Now, how can this be achieved? It could be achieved by expanding schemes like Ayushman Bharat to cover marginalized populations comprehensively. Now coming to financial inclusion, how can that be done? It could be done by promoting digital banking and microfinance for the unbanked population. Example, the Jan Dhan Yojana. Next, we should also be promoting fair wages and labor rights. So this can be done by implementing minimum wage policies and ensuring the labor rights are upheld. Here you can quote the case study of Kerala's labor-friendly policies have shown how fair wages can reduce inequality in the society. Then we should also be supporting the marginalized groups. So this can be done by encouraging small businesses through targeted programs like Stand Up India, which focuses on women and SC and ST entrepreneurs. We can also provide vocational training to improve employability in underrepresented communities. You can also encourage participatory governance. This can be done by involving local communities in decision making through decentralized governance structures like Panchayati Raj. Here, in terms of enriching your arguments and your points even further, you could refer to the global best practices such as Sweden's universal welfare model, which combines progressive taxation with robust social services to ensure inclusion. Now, the next and the last question here is that what are the benefits of an inclusive economy? So, first and foremost, that there is reduced inequality then there is greater economic stability, and we have empowered communities. So by economic stability, broad-based growth leads to a more balanced and resilient economy, and that is less prone to shocks and crises. Here you can quote China's poverty alleviation program that brought 850 million people out of poverty, stabilizing its domestic market. Next, by promoting social cohesion, reduced inequality fosters trust and cooperation among citizens, reducing the likelihood of unrest. Here, examples of Scandinavian countries consistently ranking high on the World Happiness Index due to inclusive policies can be quoted. Inclusion also allows for diverse perspectives and talents to flourish, which also drives innovation further. For example, Germany's investment in vocational training ensures that workers of all backgrounds contribute to its industrial success. Also, inclusive economies empower individuals, creating self-sustaining cycles of growth and development. Here you can use Amartya Sen's concept of development as freedom to argue that inclusion is not just about a moral imperative but a practical necessity for sustainable development. And you can also use relevant quotes to this topic to further enhance your essays. One such quote could be, "Inclusivity is not an expense, it is an investment in a brighter future." Right? So now we'll be moving on to the next topic. A nation that destroys its soils destroys itself. Now this topic serves as a stark reminder of interconnectedness between soil health, agriculture, environmental sustainability, and a nation's survival. So the idea that comes across is that soil is not just dirt, it is the foundation of life, supporting agriculture, ecosystems, and even biodiversity. When we harm the soil, we endanger the food security, economic stability, and ecological balance. That ultimately threatens the survival of the nation itself. Now, if we have to break down the topic, we'll look at the first question. That is, what does it mean to destroy soils? So it means that depleting soil fertility through unsustainable agricultural practices or polluting and eroding soil, making it unfit for food production and ecosystem support. So how is the soil destroyed? By agricultural practices, so such as excessive use of chemical fertilizers or pesticides in your soil, or even over cultivation can destroy the soil. It also includes polluting soil through industrial waste, mining, deforestation, which erodes soil, leaving it infertile and unproductive. For example, India loses about 5.3 billion tons of soil annually due to erosion, reducing agricultural productivity and leading to massive economic losses. So, 5.3 billion tons of soil. Wasted. Why is soil health crucial for nation's survival? So it is crucial because it is the foundation of agriculture. Healthy soil is essential for growing crops that feed billions. In India, where agriculture employs over 40% of the workforce, soil degradation can disrupt food systems. And it is also necessary because soil regulate water cycles, they support biodiversity and act as carbon sinks. So healthy soils store about 2,500 gigatons of carbon, playing critical role in mitigating climate change. So So 2500 gigatons of carbon in soil for mitigating climate change. Here you can give an example of the green revolution that improved yields, but it also led to soil nutrient depletion in states like Punjab and Haryana that threatened long-term stability. Now moving on to the next question, what are the consequences of soil degradation? So first of all, soil degradation can lead to food insecurity because poor soil qualities reduces crop yields and this leads to hunger and malnutrition in the society. According to FAO, soil degradation in India could lower crop production by 20 to 40% in the next decade. And it can also lead to several environmental issues. So soil erosion accelerates desertification, deforestation and loss of biodiversity. So the Thar Desert in Rajasthan has expanded due to poor soil management practices. It would also lead to economic loss because degraded soil increased the dependency on imports for food and fertilizers, draining national resources as well. Now, if we look at the next question here, that is how can nations protect and sustain their soils? So they can do so by promoting organic farming, crop rotation, and agroforestry to restore soil nutrients. So here you can mention initiatives like Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana that aims to promote organic agriculture in India. You can also raise a point that reducing over-reliance on chemical inputs by providing subsidies for biofertilizers and soil conditioners can be one solution. You can also regulate industrial activities by implementing strict regulations for industries to prevent soil pollution from hazardous waste. One can also initiate restoration and reforestation practices by programs like National Afforestation Program and soil health cards that aim to revive degraded land and provide farmers with detailed soil health insights. The last question that would complete our inference of this topic is what are the benefits of maintaining healthy soils? So first and foremost, it will ensure food security and in turn support economic stability. It would also preserve ecosystems, enhance biodiversity and mitigate climate change. Right, so how will it ensure food security? So this would be done since fertile soils ensure consistent agricultural productivity that stabilize the food supplies. Also, healthy soils can reduce dependency on the expensive imports and enhance rural livelihoods. Restoring ecosystems and enhancing biodiversity mitigates the climate change. For example, the adoption of zero tillage farming in Punjab has reduced soil erosion and carbon emissions. So here you can also add in specific data points such as on desertification. India has 96.4 million hectares of degraded land, accounting for nearly 30% of its total geographical area. The annual economic loss due to soil erosion is estimated to be 25,000 crores. You can also be adding examples here that the success of Rajasthan's Jal Kranti Abhiyan, which combines soil and water conservation techniques, highlights how integrated efforts can rejuvenate the degraded soils. The Sukho Majri watershed project in Haryana transformed a barren region into a thriving agricultural area through soil conservation practices. So healthy soils are the backbone of a nation's prosperity. By investing in sustainable soil management and prioritizing its protection, we can ensure food security, economic stability, and environmental resilience. So let us remember that when we save soil, we save lives and secure our future. All right, so let us move to the next topic now. So the next topic is technology empowers the weak, but it can also strengthen the powerful. So this statement encapsulates the dual-edged nature of technological advancements. On one hand, technology has democratized access to resources, information, and opportunities, giving voices to the marginalized. On the other hand, it has amplified the influence of the already powerful. This often widens the gap between haves and have-nots. So understanding this balance is critical to ensure that technology serves as a tool for equality rather than the domination. Now, if we have to break down this topic, we would firstly address how does technology empower the weak. So it does so by providing access to information, and resources that were previously unavailable for these people. It also enables marginalized groups to connect and organize, and in turn, they get a chance to advocate for their rights. So here you can mention initiatives like India's Digital India enrich initiative that has brought banking, education and healthcare services to rural populations through mobile apps and e-governance platforms. Also, you can use the examples of WhatsApp and Twitter used during the farmer protests in India, which mobilized millions of such population. Initiatives like Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile Trinity have empowered the economically weak by providing direct benefit transfers, reducing leakages and ensuring accountability. Right. Now, if you look at the next question, in what ways can technology strengthen the powerful? So, it could be done by control over information. So, governments and corporations use technology for surveillance and manipulation. Here you can give an example of the debate around the Pegasus spyware highlighted the concerns over the misuse of technology for monitoring dissent. It can also be used for amplifying influence. So multinational corporations like Google, Amazon, and even Facebook, they all leverage data to dominate markets and sidelining the small businesses. Manipulation of the public opinion is also done. So the rise of fake news and targeted misinformation campaigns are often driven by AI that has created polarization. An example of this misuse is of the misuse of Cambridge Analytica to sway elections. Now, if we look at the next question, why is it important to balance technology's impact? So it is important because it ensures that technology promotes equality. It also protects democratic values by preventing the misuse of technological power. Right. Here you can give an example of the digital divide in India. That means that only 42% of rural households have internet access as compared to 68% in the urban areas. Technology must be used to uphold the privacy and freedom. Regulations like India's Personal Data Protection Bill aims to prevent the misuse of personal data while ensuring inclusivity. Now, if we look at the next question, what are the consequences of technology unbalanced in favor of the powerful? So, first of all, it will lead to increased inequality, which means that wealth and resources would become concentrated in fewer hands, as seen with the dominance of tech giants. Now, there would be also the erosion of privacy. So erosion of privacy means that mass surveillance and data breaches undermine individual rights as seen in the breach of user data from platforms like Aadhaar. It would make the potential surveillance and censorship and control over vulnerable populations. So it would put vulnerable populations at risk. So automated decision-making systems in welfare schemes often exclude those without digital literacy or access. Now if you look at the next question, how can a society ensure technology remains empowering for the weak? So it can be done by promoting digital literacy and inclusion. So here you can mention government schemes like Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan that aims to make 6 crores rural households digitally literate. One can also be strengthening the regulations around technologies. So policies like Information Technology Rules 2021 aim to hold platforms accountable for the content and the data misuse. One should also encourage open source solutions such as platforms like DigiLocker or Arogya Setu demonstrate that power of government-led open access tools that prioritize inclusivity. Right? Now let us move to the next topic. So the topic is the future of agriculture is not only in increasing yields but in sustaining farmers' dignity and livelihood. So agriculture is the backbone of any economy, especially in countries like India. While increasing yield is crucial for food security and economic growth, the true future of agriculture lies in balancing productivity with the dignity and livelihood of farmers. So farmers are not mere producers, they are the custodians of our food system and culture. So if we have to break down this topic, so why is increasing yield important in agriculture? So it is important because it ensures food security and it also contributes to economic growth, and one can also explore export potential. So with a growing population, higher yields are vital to feed millions of the population. For instance, during the Green Revolution, higher yields helped India achieve self-sufficiency in food grains. Agriculture contributes significantly to the GDP and export earnings. So products like the basmati rice and spices are global successes. It would, as mentioned, it would also be helping in combating hunger and malnutrition by increased production that would reduce food scarcity and ensure balanced diets for all. Now if we look at the next question, why must agriculture also focus on sustaining farmers' dignity and livelihood? So farmers form the foundation of agricultural success. Without their well-being, sustainability is impossible. So fair rewards such as like the minimum support prices ensure farmers receive adequate compensation for their hard work. Now, sustainable practices make happy and empowered farmers are more likely to adopt eco-friendly and advanced farming techniques. Right? Now, what challenges affect the dignity and livelihood of these farmers? So, low income and debt. Farmers often face unstable incomes due to price fluctuation, leading to cycles of debt. Also unpredictable weather. So climate change has increased risks with droughts and floods devastating the crop fields. Lack of technological support is also a factor here because many small and marginal farmers cannot access modern tools or innovations, right? Now if we look at the next question, what are the consequences of focusing solely on yield without considering farmer welfare. So this would lead to farmer distress because high input costs and low returns lead to distress and migration away from agriculture. Especially in India, where farmer suicide highlights this reality. Herein you can put in specific farmer suicide data to further enrich your argument. Next up, unsustainable farming and agricultural decline. So these are also the reason, because overuse of fertilizers and pesticides for higher yields deplete the soil health and leads to long-term agricultural decline. Now the last question here is, how can agriculture be developed to sustain farmers' dignity and livelihood? So first of all, fair pricing policies can be used. So initiatives like direct procurement by government agencies help ensure fair prices for the crops. So investment in technology and education is also important here. From programs like PM Kisan Samman Nidhi and agricultural extension of services like that equip farmers with knowledge and financial support. Herein, promoting community approaches is also necessary that would encourage cooperatives, and it will allow farmers to pool resources and share benefits. So the success of Amul dairy farming is a prime example of this. Herein you can also put in some case studies such as Telangana's Raitu Bandhu scheme that provided direct income support to farmers, ensuring financial stability, or Sikkim's organic transition, wherein farmers were supported through subsidies and training, making Sikkim India's first organic state. Some data points that could be included, that over 50% of India's agriculture for livelihood, yet the sector contributes only 15 to 17% to the GDP. Farmer debt in India has recorded at rupees 74,000 per household on an average in 2022. Here you can also use examples like zero budget natural farming, where initiatives in Andhra Pradesh show how low-cost sustainable practices can improve livelihoods and yields simultaneously. So to wrap up, the intersection of economy and environment, this particular micro theme stands as a critical micro theme in UPSC preparation, demanding a nuanced understanding of their interconnected challenges and solutions. From the delicate balance in globalization to sustainable agricultural practices and the dual-edged impact of technology, these issues highlight the importance of inclusive and forward-thinking policies. So as we conclude this micro theme, remember that tackling such topics in UPSC exam requires analytical depth, multidimensional perspectives, and solutions-oriented approach. So stay tuned for our next video, where we'll explore an entirely new theme to enrich your preparation further. Thank you.